Hi, this is Al's Toy Shed. I'm Al, and I'd like to introduce a personal friend of mine. This is the M41A Pulse Rifle, 10mm with over and under 30mm pump action grenade launcher. Yes guys, this is the NERF Limited M41A Pulse Rifle, replica, stripped and repainted to make a prop replica. Now, to do this build, well, it was what I did to do this build. Obviously, the NERF Elite Limited Pulse Rifle, and then a couple of cans of spray paint, one grey primer, one black matte, very cheap from Poundland here in the UK. American guys, that would be equivalent of a dollar store, and then some acrylic black, acrylic olive green, and acrylic titanium silver. Now, I initially did pre-order this off Hasbro Pulse, but it hadn't come, taken a long time to come, I think, from Hasbro Pulse. And where I work at indemandtoys.co.uk. Check us out online. We've got a sale coming up soon, so that's indemandtoys.co.uk. My mate Nick, the boss, one of these, he did get some in. Originally he said he probably thought he wouldn't get them in, so he did tell me to get it from Pulse, but he did actually get some in. And one was returned by a customer, this one, because the rev system doesn't work and the darts weren't firing. Now, I personally don't care about this. I don't care it doesn't fire, because what I wanted was just a prop replica of the M41A from Aliens. So I'm going to get it cheaper. He's just got to work out, he gets credit, he said, from the company who he got it from, because it's faulty. So I'm going to get it a lot cheaper than the recommended retail from Hasbro Pulse of £100. I'm not sure of that in dollars. So yeah, but just to let you know, guys, a little bit of a warning for you guys, if you plan to do this, you do have to completely take it apart. And, well, there was obviously issues with this anyway, so the actual fire sound doesn't work, the actual pulse rifle noise doesn't work, and the pump action noise was working, the pump action firing noise, the grenade launcher, but when I took it apart, the electronics, it stopped working. Also, another thing you have to do to make this screen accurate is here, where the barrel would have been for the Nerf, you have to remove it, because if you don't have the vents, you can't see through them. There's like an orange barrel that goes all the way back. You have to remove that. There's a bit here, a multi-tool as well. I forgot to mention I have a multi-tool. A multi-tool would be a must for this. You get them very cheap off eBay and Amazon. You don't have to buy a Dremel. Mine was like 15, 16 British pounds. So yeah, you have to cut. There's a bit there you have to cut and sand there, and then there's a hole you have to remove it to make it screen accurate, because the Nerf barrel is a barrel here, and that's not this is the pulse rifle barrel, the 10mm. That's the actual barrel, not the barrel here. So you have to do that. So, it may still fire, because obviously there would still be some of the darts to go, but it probably wouldn't be. I'll just show you straight down, if you can see. There, that's where it would have been. So yeah, you do have to do that. So it doesn't unfortunately make the firing sound anymore, because it was originally faulty and it didn't kind of work anyway when it was returned. So, but I'm not too worried. This is more for just having a cool prop replica of the M41A. Considering like there are 3D printed ones are expensive, even like when they're just kits and not painted, they are expensive. They're not cheap. But one thing that does still work is the digital display. If you can see that, I know it's a bit bright, but if I just don't know how well that's showing up. That is quite, but that is 95. I don't know if you can see it. And just to show you, you can still make the numbers go up and down. So you can still, that does still work. So that's cool. I did take some wear on, though. It was quite frustrating. That was quite annoying. It did keep going off, but touch wood, the digital display is working. So as you can see, of weathering and obviously sanding, that says aliens there, so you have to sand that off, but it actually says aliens. And obviously the NERF, that actually says NERF in like actual, I don't know, embossed, I suppose. It actually does say NERF. By the way, the digital display does go off eventually. It doesn't stay on forever. It does turn itself off, so the batteries aren't going to die. So yeah, and as you can see, yeah, the pump action still works, but because I painted it inside, it doesn't seem to, the dart doesn't seem to fit anymore. But again, I'm not really too bothered. I just go over see what I've done the weathering on the top there, and then the weathering, and then all there, and the trigger still works though, still has a functioning trigger. And again, 3D printed ones don't have those, doesn't have a function, so the trigger's still functioning. You can still pull a trigger. That doesn't really, because obviously it doesn't have a rev function, so that just sort of sits there. That was like the rev trigger for when you rev the motors up, for when you want it to fire. And then for the grey launch pump action still works, still functions. See where I've done the weathering. I've probably gone for a bit more of a weather look than in the film, but actually in the film there is weathered. Hicks's is quite weathered, the Pulse Rifles are quite weathered, but it's quite dark, a lot of aliens, you don't really see it. But I have looked at sort of reference photos of other replicas people have done, and the Hollywood Collectibles, they did like a weathered one, so the weathering is pretty close, but I've done a little bit of my own touch as well. Obviously stock doesn't move, but as you see what I've done the stock there, and like just highlighted things like bolts and stuff, sort of giving them a bit of a weather. And then I don't know if I can do the pump action because I'm kind of holding the camera, so, but it still does, trust me, it still goes backwards and forwards, the pump action, and it's still, but there's again, the dart just doesn't fit, but I'm not really too bothered about that. I said I was showing you front there. That's where I weathered it. There. And then if you go around the other side, oops. See there, and obviously on the barrel at the tip I've weathered it, and all the weather in there. And I think I've done a pretty good job. I mean, at the end of the day, this is going to be a lot cheaper than a you know, a 3D printed or anything like that. You know, this is probably the cheapest replica, even with after you've done the paint and everything, is probably the cheapest M41A Pulse Rifle replica on the market today. Yeah, that you can get. I mean, it's £100 on Pulse. I don't know in the States what that would be, but yeah, See the weathering there, trigger, and on the fire select and safety and everything, and down on there. And then on the plates on the back there, I didn't really show you the front. It's there as well. And then, so that's where the batteries go. I did leave that, but I thought, I know it says 100, but I thought you can imagine that says Armour, M41A, etc, etc. That's what I kind of left out there. But there is loads of writing there as well. I just sanded that all down. There is like warnings and all this, don't shoot at people's faces and stuff and all that. So yeah, and obviously I had NERF there on the other side as well. Again, I just sanded that down, and then you can see there. And then if I show you a bit underneath as well, sort of there, and see the bottom of the magazine, and then under there I've done some weathering there. Yeah, I had to though there, I know there was a screw there, but I had issues with screws, you know, not coming out, being really tight, and like the heads getting stripped and not being able to undo them. So I had to grind out the bit inside to make that close. I had to cut off the actual connector bit. And I'm not really too bothered about sort of this side having holes. I know a lot of people say, well, why don't you put filler in it? Because in the day, it's going to be displayed this way around. At the end of the day, when I display it, I'm going to get some hooks and just hook it on the wall, sort of thing like that. So I'm not really too bothered anyway, because it's going to be this way facing forward. There's not really much else I can show. I think I've shown you everything. I'll just show you that the magazine does still come out. I'll show you there, and then I suppose I can show you the back. And that's just the back of the stock where I've done the weathering and stuff. Yeah, I just put this down. It's still pretty heavy because it's got sort of 4 big C batteries in there, so it's still heavy. It's still a heavy, weighty piece, you know. Even with, you know, the sort of the motor bit, I left the 2 rev motors in there because I thought, what's the point in taking them out? But the faulty bit that was in there was the main sort of bit here. The inside, I don't know if you know much about the insides of these, but people who probably know about NERFs knows that in here is the bit that the firing mechanism. That's the bit that went faulty, and that's what I took out. But anyway, look, as you can see, press that, and the magazine. I did a magazine, as you can see, some weathering on that. Yeah, and I might put a dummy round in there. I've got an old 7.6, and I left that because I thought, I know it says 10, but that could mean 10mm. There you go, 10mm. Put them in that way. So yeah, that's why I left the 10 there, because it's sort of a nod, 10mm. There you go. So I might put a dummy round in there, I don't know yet. I've got like a 7.62, you know, an actual deactivated cartridge. I might do that. Yeah, and clip still. And also, again, with 3D printed ones that are way more expensive, you don't get removable clips or anything. So yeah. Yeah, so there. My my fully customized, I've finally got one after years. I wanted an M41A the Pulse Rifle. The 3D printed ones being too expensive, too much work. The Hollywood Collectibles one was ridiculously priced, and that was only resin. That had no moving parts or any digital readout or anything. There was another one. There was a metal one with like a pump action that did have a digital display. I can't remember who did that one, but again, that was like a £900, £1,000 piece. This probably all in is going to be like, for me, for like £70. I mean, he's got, like I say, something like that. That's what it's going to be, about 70. I'd say 70 odd, 80 odd quid, all in with the paint and everything. So this is the cheapest replica you're going to get on the market. So yeah, order one, you get one. Unfortunately, we've got none left at In Demand Toys, but you know, get one where you can. But bear in mind, guys, you want to do this, you're going to have to take it apart. You may get some issues with electronics. I did. things you have to disconnect and stuff anyway. But like I say, the main thing I'm happy about, the digital readout still works out, still works. Don't know if you can see that. And like I say, the numbers still go up and down. So yeah, not really anything else to say. Just stay safe, stay well, and game over, man! Game over!